Hello everyone, I'm Pablo Santos from Codit Software, and we are going to start with the webinar today, right? We are going to talk a little bit about what's new in SemanticMerge for Java. I hope everyone is all ready to start. If you have any questions, feel free to just ask them using the interface you have, and we'll be happy to stop at any moment and just try to, answer the questions and so on, okay? So I think almost everyone is arriving already. We're going to just get ready to start. Okay, so, well, some of you already know what SemanticMerge is about, but what I'm going to do is just to make an explanation of what are the things we have done so far, what we released last week, and also I'm going to show you some of the new things we're working on, which I think they're going to be very interesting for most of you. Well, first of all, I'm going to, just for the people who never heard of or just starting to play with SemanticMerge, I'd like to explain what SemanticMerge is all about. Well, basically, it's a three-way merge tool. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the concept, but basically it means it takes an ancestor file, I mean, how the file was, and then the two contributors, suppose two people modify the same file, so it takes the three of them and handles them, right? So the different thing, the real differentiator is that it's a refactor aware and programming language aware three-way merge tool, okay? So, well, basically what it does is just it first parses the code, and once the code is parsed, it starts calculating the merge. And that's basically the main difference you have with all the other systems out there, right? Because basically all the other systems are text-based. In fact, we ship with Plastic SCM one diff and merge system which is able to track some refactors, which is called xdiff and xmerge, but it's based on test blocks, right? So it calculates test block differences, it calculates how similar different test blocks are, and then it operates based on that. But this is completely different because it first parses the code, then it creates some sort of intermediate tree of each file, then calculates the diff pairs, I mean, the base file and the source, the base file and destination, then based on these pairs of differences, which are already semantic difference, it will go and calculate the conflicts. Right? So it's very good for, refactoring and all that. Okay, well, as you know, because I was talking a little bit about, well, I just said we ship a different tool with Plastic SCM, but as you know, and if you know, I'm gonna make it clear, right? SemanticMerge is ready to work with any version control system out there. You can use it with Git, you can use it with TFS, you can use it with Perforce, ClearCase, whatever, right? It's just a tool you invoke at the command line level, and then it's well, it will just run from there. Well, what was the main motivation? Why we thought Semantic was good, right? Well, because it can really affect the way in which you develop. And basically the impact can be seen in terms of the cost of change, what we call the cost of change. I mean, we don't say that. I mean, very well-known authors say that. For instance, if you go back and read a Barry Boehm book on software economics back from 1981, what I think a lot of developers, we have been taught that is if you make a change in requirements, it will cost much less than if it's made on production, right? And then like 20 years later, Ken Beck came out with the idea of all the, well, when he introduced some of the extreme programming stuff, I mean, it was not only him, it was not only Ken Beck, right? But when he came with this, he introduced the concept that if you keep your code very clean, very readable, very maintainable, then the cost of change, instead of growing up exponentially, will go, like this, right? More of a logarithmic curve or something like that. And that's basically what we try to help a little bit with Semantic, because by keeping the cost, keeping the cost of change under control means you have to clean up your code, means you have to refactor a lot. And SemanticMerge is all about refactoring. Okay, well, this is something that I like to explain because it's a little bit of how we test SemanticMerge ourselves and the things we have found so far. So first, Semantic can help you simplifying some of the merges you do today. I mean, by today I mean with the development practices you are using today, which basically tend to avoid uh, this kind of conflicts, right? Because you normally won't move a method down and then modify the method in parallel in a different location or something like that, because you end up in trouble. Well, what we found out is that by rerunning a lot of merges, we downloaded several thousand repositories from the web, also use repositories from some of our customers, and then we found out that today it already helps you simplifying the merges, because there's about like 23% of the current conflicts can be considered as semantic, which means some method is moved a little bit or something like that, that semantic will help. And then another important finding is that, okay, it's not that it's magic or something, but since it actually knows when a method was moved or when a method was precisely modified and so on, it can help you reviewing much less code than what you will do using a traditional merge tool. Okay, but most importantly for me is that it will be able to help you with scenarios you are simply not doing today, right? For instance, something like move your methods, split a class or something like that, then go and merge. Something that is simply a nightmare today is completely doable with semantic merge, right? So I guess the people, and I expect that the people using semantic merge on a daily basis will be able to focus more on just cleaning up the code, making it maintainable and readable, and forgetting about whether it's going to be a mess to merge it back, because they will be able to do it. Okay, let me explain you one of the scenarios I'm going to be talking about today. It's a Java scenario. You know, semantic merge is able to run already with Java, with C#, and with Visual Basic.NET. And next ones are going to be C. Then we have a very high request, very important request for a lot of developers asking for JavaScript and things like that. But these are the mains we have today. Okay, let me focus on this scenario. Let me look at this part here. This is the ancestor. This is how the file was. And then we have the two contributors at the two sides, right? So basically, what does it mean? Well, it means that first, the socket class has been renamed. And it's now called DNS, okay? It also means that you created a subclass called server socket, and you put two methods there. One of them, recv, was also modified. So it's been moved, which the M stands for move, and then it was also changed, right, which is the C. Okay, so you did that, but in parallel, someone else, this file here, changed the get host by name. So here the C. He created a new class called client socket, which is added, as you see with the add, and then he moved a couple of methods there. Okay, this is a nice refactor, and I'm going to show you how it looks like with a conventional merge tool. Okay, one thing, when you install semantic merge, by default, it will go to app data. Then inside app data, it will go to local, and then plastic SCM4 and semantic merge, right? Semantic merge. The reason why we install it on the local directory is because it makes much easier to deal with the update system. It's pretty much the same that Chrome is doing and some other products are doing today, right? Okay, the important thing is that inside that folder, there's a samples directory with a lot of examples you can just run to start getting familiar with what's going on under the scenes, right? So I'll start with the Java ones. Actually, there are the same examples basically in all languages. So there are two examples that we are going to be checking today. One is a socket, and the other one is a socket deeper. But I'll go to the Java directory. I'll go to the socket example, and first I'll run. There are two bat files there. Well, you have a merge explanation file, which basically tells you what happened, which is more or less which I just described. And then you have two bat files. The first one, sample merge tool, will run a traditional three-way merge tool. Actually, the one we ship with semantic merge is a text block based one. Okay. The second one is the semantic merge tool, which is the one I'm going to run now. Okay. I just wanted to show you how complicated it's going to look here with this one, but I have to check something because it seems I just broke something in my configuration before that, right? So let me just check the sample semantic merge tool. So here we go. We'll start up the tool. Here it comes. And you can see the result file with the DNS class, the server socket class, the client socket class, and then the methods. And if you look carefully, you see it's basically what you will have if you merge this, right? So you will get the refactor one, the renamed one, then the server socket, and then the client socket. So method here, this is not properly indented, but you can simply do it, right? And then save the changes, and you will be done. Okay, the very interesting thing here is that a conflict that would normally be a nightmare to merge, because basically you are, as you can see here, right? Just if you try to merge it on a line-by-line basis, you'll see code that simply doesn't match, because you get host by name, but here you get listen or the declaration of the class, so it doesn't match. But for semantic, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so this is one of the merge cases I wanted to show you. But there's something else that I'll be unveiling today that is not yet available if you download semantic right now, but it's going to be available in a few days, right? If you look carefully here to my GUI, you'll see a button saying visual merge. Can you see that? Okay, this is not yet on the tool you can download today, but it's going to be available really soon. And this is one of the things I wanted to share with you, because we are basically working on all these things, and I want to share what, well, the roadmap a little bit with you. So, have you seen this graphic here? Okay, let me show you the visual merge. Here it comes. Actually, it's not a visual. I mean, what I put here in the presentation, and actually it's been on the website the graphic has been on the website for a while. It's not something we draw using Visio or something like that. Actually, it's a live example of the diagram that the merge tool can show, right? This is basically what it comes up with. So you can get a much better understanding looking at this diagram of how the code has been modified instead of just going and diffing the files and all that, right? So this is a little bit of what we've been working on. It's called the visual merge. Actually, it's not able to run. You cannot really merge from here yet. You have to go back to the merge tool, but you can really understand what happened, right? And let me just show you something. If I just press Control and click on a couple of methods, I can go and diff it and check what's going on a method per method basis. But again, I have the same issue. I'm going to check what's wrong with my text-based file in a second, and just show you how I can default that and so on, right? Okay, so a little bit of that then. Well, if you go to the merge tool, you see it says there are no conflicts because it was basically able to merge it automatically. Okay, but there are changes, right? So it found some changes that happened on on source, also some changes on destination. And well, you can go and inspect them one by one. The source diffs, destination diffs, and so on, right? Okay, and once you're done, you can also go and rearrange the file. Suppose, for instance, you want to move a method down, okay? You see how it's basically done there, okay? So this is a little bit of how it works here, okay? And well, a little bit of the things we are working on here. Okay, so let me go back to the presentation and describe a little bit more complicated scenario. Well, the second case here, well, I don't know if you have any questions so far. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We'll be happy to answer. You just have to type. Okay, well, otherwise I will just continue, and maybe we can focus on the answers at the end, right? Okay, so on the questions. Okay, so the second example I'm going to cover today, it's about what we call the divergent move case. Basically, what happens if you have a situation like the one here, okay, and then you move a method to two different locations. Look at the method listen on class server socket. Okay, this listen method is doing a couple of operations in parallel. The first one is that it's moved from server socket to client socket, but then in parallel, it's been moved to DNS. So, and it was also being modified twice in parallel, right? So, okay, you will need to check this and check what's going on, okay? So in order to do that, I'm going to show you how the tool is able to handle the situation. Okay, first close the tool, then go back to what we call the socket deeper. But before doing that, I'm going to show you something. Well, if you run semantic for Java, normally it will try to run, okay, it will try to find the Java virtual machine from your path. In my case, I don't have it in the path, so it's going to tell me I cannot find the Java virtual machine. Okay, normally, okay, there's a question. Okay, Robert is asking a question, which is how the tool can determine if that class has been renamed. Okay, that's a very good question. Let me just go back to the previous example, run it, and check it, okay? Okay, I'm going to use the visual merge in order to explain that. Okay, look. The semantic merge is based first on parsing, so it basically knows the socket method is a method, the get host by name is another method, and so on, right? Well, socket actually here is a field, right? It's a different icon, but okay, the thing is based on parsing, but it's also based on the xdiff algorithm, which is able to find how similar two methods are based on their bodies. Okay, so how does it actually know that this class and this class are actually the same? Okay, first thing it will do is, okay, it will find DNS as a new class. So internally, when doing the calculation, it will find DNS as a new class. Okay, and it will also find server socket as a new class. Okay, once it does that, it will compare with the previous one, which is this. I will say, okay, there's an added here, and there's also a deleted class, because it won't find the old socket class there. So it will find DNS as new, server socket as new, and the old socket as deleted. Okay? So then it will try to match the classes detected as deleted and the classes detected as added. And then suppose it first tries to match server socket with socket. It will say, okay, how similar they are. It will say something like, okay, listen method is there, recv is there, so they are pretty similar. It could be a rename from socket to server socket. But then it will give a try with DNS, and it will find socket, get host by name, connect to, send. So it's more similar, let's say, to socket, sorry, to DNS than it is to server socket. And it's basically how it figures out this. But there's something here when you go to the differences, for instance, there are actually options when it finds something that's been recently renamed. There's something called unmatch, right? So suppose, because what the tool has to do is to apply some sort of heuristic and calculation to try to figure out when a class or a method or something has been moved, right? It will try to say, okay, it's very similar to the original one I had, so I guess it's the same. So what it's going to do is try to find a match by itself. So there are options to actually unmatch and find a new match, right? So in case you say, okay, it's matching it with the wrong one, I can go and manually say, hey, match it with the right one. That's a little bit. I hope I answered your question. I don't know if I did it. Hope I did. Is the question solved? Okay, fine. Okay, so let's now go to the other example, the socket deeper, and I was explaining how I can configure where the virtual machine is. I mean, where the Java virtual machine is. So let me just edit the launch. Okay, this launch script is a little bit more complicated because it's using a lot of variables, but at the end, you just have an example of how to launch it, which is basically what you're going to use in order to run it from your regular version control system, right? And of course, we have documentation on the website, and I'm going to just show you that, right? You go to plasticscm.com. Okay. If you go to plasticscm.com, sorry, SemanticMerge.com. Okay. There's a documentation area where you can find how to configure it with documentation here, how to configure it with Git, TFS, Perforce, Plastic, Mercurial, I mean, all of them, right? So that's where you can go and learn that. But the other thing I was going to do is to actually explain you how to set the JVM, right? In my case, I'm just adding this, VM equal to the location where my JVM is, right? Normally, JVM, right? So normally it will have being able to detect it itself because it's in the path, but in my case, I didn't put it on the path on purpose in order to just make it fail and just show it this way, right? So now that it's set, should be able to find it, to parse the file, and remember we are going to see a divergent move merge, right? So we have the method listen, you go to the visual merge, you see the listen method has been moved to 2 different locations, and that's basically how it works, right? You can go to one location to the other location and basically make it work this way. Okay, so this is a little bit of what it can do. Well, we added some options on visual merge, like for instance, be able to hide what wasn't changed, so it really simplifies a lot the whole thing because you just focus on what has been really changed. You know, diagram is much smaller, and so on. So this is basically what you can do. Then you can just go and select the conflicts, right, and solve the conflicts. So this is my case. Where do I want the listen method to go? Do I want it on client socket? Or do I want it on the DNS class? So I can decide here where I want to put it. In my case, I will just keep it on destination. Okay, so just do that. It's solved. And then the other one will be just run and set up the correct merge. I mean, just run the text merge with this difference. So it will be a little bit of what's there and what's available to do, right? Okay, go back to the presentation, and then let me show you some core concepts. If you are new to SemanticMerge, you might be wondering why these guys are not showing the contents of the 3 contributors as a regular merge tool does. Okay, there are two answers here. First one is because it's not really easy to render the moves, because that's basically a problem that is there with basically all the diff tools. If you move a piece of code, you can show a line going down, but when you have you actually crisscross some methods or something like that, then it's a mess to really understand. So we wanted to come up with a different approach, which lets you just focus on what the problem is. So I'll not be focusing on the entire file, just really what the change is, right? And just be able to focus on that. And then, of course, we added the new concept, which is this visual merge, which lets you understand much better what's going on. And there's something interesting here. When you look at the conflicts, you see there are a couple of icons. These icons are important to understand. Look at this. The method listen has been changed and changed. This area here on the left means source. This area here on the right means destination. So what it basically does is show you, okay, it's been changed on source and destination, so you definitely have a conflict. And then it has been moved also on both, so you also have a conflict. And the same will be true for the other method. Let me just show you that. If I go back to the visual merge, you'll see that the connect to method has been deleted here. It's not here anymore on the source, but it has been changed on the destination, right? So you have a delete change conflict, whether you keep the deletion or you keep the change undoing the deletion, right? And that's basically what the icons are all about. And this is what we wanted to come up with this design. Okay, well, as you know, we provide integrations with IntelliJ. There are some fixes that we publish on the guide because the guys in IntelliJ, they must do a small fix before it's truly usable, but it's the same for all the external 3-way merge tools. They are not invoking the right code when the merge is finished, so it shows up again and again, but it's doable. I mean, I put the explanation on the guide. And then we immediately integrate with Git, Mercurial, TFS, Plastic Perform Subversion, I mean everything, including ClearCase. So it's very easy to set up because just a command line tool, right? So this is a little bit of what we have there, and well, what we're working on right now, basically we are focusing on three things. First, we're working on C support. So first we will have C, then probably C++. And we are also working on a Linux version. So we'll have a Linux version of the GUI. And in parallel, we are trying to complete a Mac OS version because it's basically the top request we have in our user voice. So we'll be focusing on that. More things to come. Well, we already have a prototype of a multi-file semantic merge. So suppose a refactor like the one I showed you before, like the one we have here, visual merge, but suppose it's been moved across files and not just within the file, right? We are working on that technology, and in order to make it available, it will stay. I mean, we have just some proof of concept working, but it will need more polishing and testing and so on. And well, this is one of the big things together with the new languages and the new user interfaces. So that's a little bit of what semantic merge is about. I hope it was fine for you and you feel comfortable with it and using it on a daily basis. Of course, there's something else, and we are trying to improve. And in fact, we already have a new release with a lot of improvements in the load time, in the performance time during loading. So it takes less than a second to show up, which is something very important you want to use in the production. Remember, we're still running an open beta, so you can get it for free, use it, and so on. We just started a campaign last week, which is, invite a few friends to use SemanticMerge, and as soon as they register, you will be able to get extended licenses or even a free unlimited license. If you invite up to five friends, we really need to add more people to the user base to get more feedback and so on. And well, that's a little bit about it. So you have questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer. Okay, there are a few questions here. Let me just start with the first one. Okay, it says, when do you have any idea when the IntelliJ plugin will be available? Okay, you can use already the IntelliJ one, but of course only on Windows, because basically Semantic Merge is just on Windows so far, but we'll try to come out with a Mac version soon. So as soon as it's on Mac, basically will be there. It's not going to be actually a plugin, but it's going to be simply an external tool you can invoke. Now there's another question, which is, if we are going to see the possibility to extend the number of languages. Yeah, actually I forgot to mention that, so thank you, Cooper, to add this question. Yes, we are working on that, right? Basically, what the tool does is basically it takes an input file and it will parse it and generate what we call the intermediate tree, right? And then work on that. Actually, we are working on opening up that part so you can generate your own trees, and the tool will be able to handle that, right? We are just cleaning up a little bit the format so that it's usable from outside, and we'll be publishing a couple of things. First, the format itself, so you can just plug your own parser to the tool. It will be, we'll just invoke it from the command line or something like that, so it will be very, very simple. Just you receive a file and you have to output the tree format. So this is one of the things we are doing. We'll be publishing, and then the second thing we'll be publishing is a test tool, so you are able to test your parser easily, right? So something we have done so far down here is that we parse like 2 million files of Java, and we are able to first parse it and then rebuild the same file based on the tree, right? And that's basically what you will need to check in order to have your own parser. So yes, we'll be adding support for external parsers, so people will be able to add, support for Delphi and things like that. Otherwise, we'll probably don't have the time to do it. Okay, don't know if there are other questions there. Okay, well, I want to show you something about the support on Linux, right? We're already working on that, and I'm going to show you a little bit of how it looks like. Okay, I'm just sharing my virtual machine right now, but okay, here's how it looks and feels. It's a real app. It's not a screenshot or anything. It's not yet fully functional, by the way, but it's almost getting there. And this is the GTK sharp approach, right? So, okay, I think it's going to be out soon. When soon's going to be? Well, I expect like no more than a month, right? It all depends on how the tests that we are running go, but normally it should be fast. As you can see, it's basically here, right? So it's still not fully functional, as I said, but looking good. Okay, for JavaScript, we still don't know. I mean, it's a little bit different than the other languages for us because we are much more, used to work with Java and C# and so on. So it's not, we have to do some study ourselves and also make sure whether we have to deal with the files where JavaScript is inside the HTML or something like that, or just handle the files where the JavaScript is alone, right? That will be much easier, of course. We'll be focusing on that as soon as we release C and C++. I expect C to be finished in a month from now, probably C++ another month or so, but we will most likely start with JavaScript a little bit earlier because it's the top language request we have. So yes, I said that I understand we need to react fast here. Okay, there's some other question, which is when a file is parsed, does it do so just for the file without taking into account import statement? Yeah, what we do is just a basic parse. I mean, we are not doing something like, okay, the import is not there, or if we cannot find all the imports or something like that, it doesn't work. No, we are not doing that right now. It's just a basic parse trying to find, the method locations and stuff like that. Okay. Well, if you have any other questions, it's your turn. Okay, thank you, Robert. Okay, remember, well, you are the people who's now in the meeting, you are basically some of the early adopters and enthusiasts with the technology, so it is going to be great if you feel like sharing it and, letting us spread a little bit more. And in order to do that, that's why I announced it before all this program with, giving you free licenses. Okay, any other questions? Okay, what I'm going to do is that once we finish the meeting, I'm going to publish the recording of the webinar, so it's going to be available online. So I'll be tweeting the post, so everyone will be able to just see it, right? And okay, if there are no other questions, then okay, we'll just finish the session for today. And let's continue in a couple of weeks with more new stuff in SemanticMerge. Okay? Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining, and talk to you in a few weeks. And of course, we are open to hear your suggestions and ideas, right, online. So thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, I see there's a question. Yeah, sure. My Twitter name is, I think you can find me in two places. One is here, at PS Luaces, and the other one is, of course, SemanticMerge, right? You can find me also at SemanticMerge. Yeah, and at both places, I'll be more than happy to get your ideas and try to follow up with the conversation, right? Okay, so thank you everyone, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.